Hello, my name is Lindsay Widener, and I am doing open source, open culture presentation today, specifically on community activism and how we can utilize open source to get involved and stay connected in our communities. For an example, Occupy Albuquerque that's been happening. It's a great way to stay connected with what's happening there by joining Facebook groups and different open source programs that allow us to stay connected with our communities. So today I asked a speaker to come in to speak to you all about what activism looks like and how we can utilize open source, open access to be activists in our community. So Travis McKenzie is here today to speak to you all. He works with Albuquerque Public Schools as well as Southwest Organizing Projects, also known as SWAP. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about seed saving and what that has to do with open source, open culture. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Just like to start out by thanking all the organizers and all the people that made this happen. It's an honor to be here today to be able to speak under the context of open source. And so I'm actually going to be speaking to seeds, and relating our seed sovereignty to open source as well. There's just a little Hindi prayer up there that says, "Let the seed be exhaustless, let life never run out." And I don't know if you guys are in tune or up on what's happening in the seed world or what's happening with our food and how our food's being grown and produced, marketed. There's a lot of controversy in the way we are producing food now for about 60 years with petroleum and chemicals. So there's also a big issue regards to intellectual property rights when it comes to the patenting of genes. The terms usually genetic engineering, GMO, genetically modified organism, transgenic altercations to the crops. There's tons of different terms, but what's really, I think, very connected to open source is that farmers are now being sued because their crops are being contaminated, and corporations have patent laws on these genes, and it's basically infringing on our democracy and on our farmers. And it's very much a struggle to keep our seeds open and available to all people, and also to hold corporations accountable for this. So just to kind of give some background information, let me see what the next slide here is, about seed sovereignty and diversity. People have been living on the planet for thousands and thousands of years, and for thousands of years, cultures and people have cultivated a relationship with crops, seeds, saved them year after year, and passed seeds on generation after generation. Well, until very recently in the United States, you've never been able to patent a living organism. So I could patent a new microphone invention or something that would make this podium better, or some kind of unliving object or functionable mechanism that you could patent. Well, in I think it was the 90s that the Supreme Court passed by one vote that you could now patent genes. So corporations could create a patent on genes, and then if that gene would transfer or cross-pollinate into any other crops, because they have patent laws and patent rights, they are now, the farmer who got contaminated is now in violation of those patents. So even though the farmer that got contaminated didn't want to grow the crop, didn't want to get contaminated, now his crop, let's say it's an organic farmer of some crop like alfalfa or canola, if they get contaminated, now you can't sell your product as organic either, so the farmer loses in that way. But what's really intense is because it's patent laws is one of the most strict laws in the United States, so there's really no arguing it. It's the dominant gene. So when it contaminates, when it cross-pollinates, since it's the dominant gene, it goes into the other organism until your crop, say it's an organic crop, maybe a seed you've been saving for generation after generation. I don't know if you guys have heard of Percy Schmeiser. He's actually fought in the legal system these corporations that are doing this, and took it all the way to the Canadian Supreme Court. He'd been growing canola oil for generations, and he got contaminated just like this. Well, what he speaks about is that when, let's say we're growing our crop like canola, we get contaminated. Well, since we're in violation of the patent, they now have, the corporations that have the patent right now have the right to come onto my property with or without me present, take any sample of my seeds with or without me present, be able to go through any of my legal documents with or without me present, and can come onto my property at any time. So it's, yeah. That's a great question. The question was, is there any way that the farmer can defend himself or themselves and sue the corporation and hold them liable? As of right now, no, but this year we tried to pass the Farmer Protection Act. I believe it was SB 51, and in there we said that exact thing. So if we're a farmer, and talk about open source, you know, we really look forward to utilizing open source to get this information out there. Keep an eye on it. Last year it was called the Farmer Protection Act. Again, we could look it up, SB 51, I believe. But in it, it states, oh yeah.
SB 51, is that federal or state?
State. Yes, ma'am, state. And the thing is, what that bill said, what we were trying to do, and it actually tied in the House. So actually, we got some motion on it, and any piece of legislation, if you don't try, if we don't get through 1 year, keep trying and trying, because what we're trying to do is build a relationship with our representatives and tell them that this is important, because what the bill says is trying to protect farmers. So let's say I get contaminated. Well, instead of me being liable and me getting sued for all these things, I would then hold the corporation liable because they contaminated my organic crop. And so they would then be held liable. Another thing in this patent law is it says that all suits that come up have to take place in the corporation's headquarters, whatever state that may be. So many times it's Midwest. I mean, if you're getting sued, if a farmer's getting sued out here in New Mexico, you got to pack up. It could take months to process through a legal system in another state, especially when it's transferring over. So you can see that this is definitely a problem. So what we're trying to advocate for, and also utilize open source, and actually, in a sense, this public forum is a form of open source that can take digital media and then spoken word, oral knowledge, and presentations, and we could really talk about all these things, and I think that's really crucial. And so me personally, we're an advocate for everyone has the right for seeds, water, you know, clean air, and these are things that, I mean, if you think about it, all human beings, no matter where you're from, how much money you make, what country you're from, or what language you speak, all human beings drink water and need water to survive. We all breathe air, we all need food, and these are paramount issues that I think we should be concerned with. I mean, we should be caring for our water, our air, our food, and our people, ultimately, our earth. So by preserving our environment, in a sense, we are utilizing the full potential of the open source that could be energy, life, solar, I mean, water. These things are super important. So, oops, sorry. Kind of flashed out there. Got excited. So, has anybody heard of Vandana Shiva? Vandana Shiva? Really, yeah, let's give it up for Vandana Shiva. If you haven't heard of her, Dr. Shiva is from India, and she's extremely well educated. She's actually a physicist by academia. She's a quantum physicist. She got her doctorate in quantum physics, and she's actually trying to prove that instead of all things are separate, that all things are connected, and doing that using physics. So it's basically using science to show what indigenous knowledge has said for ever that, you know, all things are connected. And so she's using physics to do that, and in a sense, you know, tapping into that open source, that all things are connected. And I really see democracy as a huge component to open source and what we're talking about here. And Vandana Shiva really eloquently talks about an earth democracy, or a deeper democracy. For instance, in our democracy, when people are running for office, there seems to be a lot of really great things that they're talking about and that they're going to do. And then somehow when they get into office, maybe not all those things got accomplished, if very many at all. And so Vandana Shiva calls out, well, in the democracy, why is that right? Is that just? Or should there be some way to hold our elected officials accountable to do what they said they were going to do to even get elected into that position? And she goes even further to bring in all living things into our earth democracy, not just human beings, but all creation, all life on earth. And I think it makes sense because when we're talking about human existence, it's not really new news that we can't survive without life and creation. We can't survive without butterflies. We can't survive without trees. We are a part of the harmony of nature and the harmony of the earth. So all those things should be incorporated into our philosophy and concept and understanding of democracy, and really participating. You know, and I think that's why I commend, you know, this whole event, and really everyone just getting involved in expressing how they participate, whatever it may be, because there is a lot of things out there to connect to, and with technology now, you know, we're really so connected, and there's so much potential that could happen through all these amazing things. But when it comes down to it, again, it's all about water, food, air, and really that's the health of all people. Is if we could take care of the earth, we will then in turn take care of ourselves and future generations. So that's a little bit about deep earth democracy. You know, there's tons of things to talk about, like agribusiness versus agriculture. What we're really into is community gardens, doing gardens in schools, and you know, really providing the community with the opportunity to learn on how to grow food. So, you know, I guess one big question that I want to kind of clear up is, you know, I talk to kids, we go around schools and doing this, and, you know, we ask them, well, where does your food come from? And, you know, a lot of the answers that we get is, well, from the supermarket. And granted, that's a true, you know, that's a true answer. Food does come from the supermarket. But again, if we go deeper, well, where does it come from before the supermarket? And actually, if you go into any big chain supermarket in Albuquerque, guaranteed about over 50% of the produce is shipped in from out of country. You know, so we got garlic, racks of aisles, or, you know, big stack of garlic in Albertsons, and all of it's from China. Well, how did garlic from China get into Albuquerque? So if I want to go into Albertsons and buy a salsa, the garlic could be from China, my onions could be from Argentina, my chile could be from Mexico or China, and we're in New Mexico, so it's a big journey to go all the way from China to California, probably on a big ship. Then it's got to get onto a truck, go to a facility, get inspected, go to another facility, maybe get packaged, go to another facility, get shipped, end up Albertsons, New Mexico, shipped out, loaded, unloaded. I go and I'm making my salsa with vegetables from around the world. Well, how does that happen? There's a system in place that supports that. And how is garlic from China cheaper than garlic that's grown here in New Mexico? And it really makes us think, wow, how is that even possible? I'm going to buy garlic cheaper from China, which is, I mean, you know, that's a long way away. And it's cheaper than buying garlic from New Mexico. So there's a lot of things going on here. And so part of my open source, and give thanks for the space to do it, is to really encourage people to cultivate a connection with the food that we eat, with the earth, with the water that we drink, with the air that we breathe. And I think us in New Mexico, we're extremely fortunate to have a rich culture and a very diverse culture of caring for the earth, no matter what culture you're from, or no matter who you are. I like to say every single person in this building and in the world has an agrarian heritage. somewhere down the line, your grandpa, your great-great-grandpa, your great-great-great-great-great-grandpa, grandma tended the land, harvested what they grew, and had a connection with that. And really, I think it's kind of like a renaissance of connection. It's kind of a renaissance of open source in the fact that we can grow our food, we can, be active, we can create media, we can really make a difference in the world through this kind of collective sharing and open source kind of format. So I'd just like to show you guys a little bit. We got a video up here if I can find where I put it here. This is so one of the ideas for our open source projects that we want to do in the future is What's Good broadcast. So we will be an alternative newscast, and instead of reporting on stabbings and robberies and crashes and political scandals and all the great things that we get to hear every night on our local news broadcast, we'll get to then broadcast great things and good things that are happening in the neighborhood, and we're going to call it What's Good. So this is just a little trailer. This is actually taken this year from La Placita Gardens. It was the day of service. It happens on Cesar Chavez's birthday. We had about 250, 300 kids come out to the farm, learn about the legacy of Cesar Chavez, about fighting for farm workers' rights, for the rights of the earth. A really great day, and kids come from all over different schools. So this is a way we're just trying to capture what's good in the community and kind of utilizing that open source again. So let's see what our levels are like here. Let's see if that loads up. But can I get a time check? How are we doing on time again? What was it? 3:20, and I'm going to 3:30. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get this to load up. Since we're kind of in a pause right here. Oh, nice. Oh, thank you guys for coming. That was great. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, right on. We got any questions or comments that we could go to, or?
Yeah. So I know we heard about like farming, open source farming ideas. I know a lot of the initiatives in like Detroit to get urban farming going and to utilize space that perhaps buildings have been condemned for open farming or farming on top of buildings. I know Albuquerque is doing some of that. Maybe we talk about the urban farming idea a little bit.
Oh, sure. So just to kind of introduce what I do, I work for the Southwest Organizing Project, and we do a food justice initiative called Project Feed the Hood. And Project Feed the Hood is the first site in the International District Garden is located on Ross and Wellesley, right on the east side of the golf course there on Gibson and between Girard and Carlisle. So we're in a very transient, low-income neighborhood, and it's super awesome because, urban agriculture, I feel, is really going to help bring health and abundance to many of our communities that really get the short end of the stick, so to speak, of our society's kind of placement of food, access to food. I don't know if anybody's heard the term food deserts, but there's a term called food deserts where basically there's no access to healthy food around your neighborhood. And some communities have a lot of food access, some communities don't. So we're finding that having community gardens in neighborhoods is a way to bring that access to communities and to really teach them how to grow the food in their backyard, in their front yard, in the community garden. garden space, and it's been a journey, you know, and it takes time. This is just our second year, but what I've noticed is an incredible increase in the interest of community gardens and gardening, whether it be in schools, with churches, community centers. People are getting into it, and I think it's a really great way to celebrate community, to celebrate health, to celebrate learning, to celebrate the environment and nature. So I think there's a lot of great things. There's East Central Ministries has an incredible urban agricultural system going on. The Dragon Farm at South Valley Academy has a semi-rural farm going at the school. So there's a lot of urban agricultural initiatives. Us with Feed the Hood. So basically our philosophy is to try to be an alternative to the capitalistic food system and provide organic, healthy, fresh food to low-income communities. Because when you're talking about organic food, again, just like the China garlic scene, I have to pay more for organic food than I do for non-organic. And basically, non-organic versus organic, non-organic means that there's a lot of petroleum in it, that it's monocrop, it could be genetically engineered, it's highly dependent on petroleum and chemically based fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. And so, you know, I think we really are doing this work in urban agriculture settings, like let's say an apartment. What would you do? Well, there's a woman in Silver City who's got a school garden going with 2,000 pickle buckets. So she literally just puts holes in the bottom of the pickle buckets, and she's got thousands lined up, and they grow melons, tomatoes, chilies, all kinds of cool things. So I think the possibilities out there, and I think open source, now that we get to see all these things and we get to kind of help shape what our cities are going to look like in the future. And I think that's a big part, and really, you know, it's really fun. And I think it's more efficient. You know, if we're going to be using a lot of water in the desert, we might as well be either drinking it or growing food with it. You know what I mean? And if we kind of look at our society, we're using water in a lot of weird ways. You know, and it's at certain points it's extremely wasteful. And what we're saying is urban agriculture is a better, more efficient use of that water, because you not only get food, you get to cultivate community, you get a beauty space, the environment, less crime, you know, students are doing better in school. You know, there's a lot of benefits to urban agriculture. And if it comes down to it, where does our food come from? I mean, we're really dependent on a food system that could crumble if there was a natural disaster, or because that's the thing about diversity. When you're looking at when you go to a store, how many tomatoes just look exactly the same, right? Exactly the same. Well, how many people just in this gathering look exactly the same? Nobody. So naturally, that kind of uniformity, that kind of genetically engineered uniformity is not natural. Because when you grow a tomato, all your tomatoes come out different, you know, because it's diversity. And so there's strength in diversity, and I think there's strength in urban agriculture. And when we're talking about eating the food that we grow locally, it's going to have to come into the picture. And I think what you're talking about, utilizing spaces creatively, like rooftop gardens, empty lots being transformed into gardens, all these kinds of things are super amazing. School gardens, senior citizen gardens. I mean, it's extremely therapeutic, and I think it's extremely important for the health and well-being of our earth. So, thanks, man. Heck yeah. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Or thanks for letting me vibe out here. I don't know if it's gone. Should we play it? Do we have time, or just to end with the? Still going? Yeah. Does anybody have one more question, real quick, and then we'll get to this because it's just loading up real quick.
So, how efficient do you think it is to actually, have everybody growing their own crops? Like, probably you can't meet every single person. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people to feed. The logistics behind that are just.
So how do we do it? Exactly. And I don't know.
Would be a plan? How would you go about? I guess this would be a first step in informing people.
Sure, exactly. And I think part of the open source too, well, first of all, we just hit 7 billion people like sometime last week or something. That's a lot of mouths to feed. You know what I mean? I can't even imagine 1 billion people up in a play. I mean, 7 billion people, there's a lot of people going on. And that's a great point. And I think the whole Green Revolution, when they launched this petroleum, chemically based food production system, their rhetoric was, well, we're going to feed the world. You produce more food like this than you do the other way. Well, actually, that's not true. And what's really cool is Vandana Shiva, as well as other people, are starting to prove it with empirical evidence, showing that organic methods are producing 2 to 3 times more than these kinds of other methods. So I think one piece would be to reform and totally transform the way we grow food and do it organically, which I think could produce a lot of food, but also kind of just cultivating a culture of being able to grow food. Because I think, especially in urban areas, when we grow up in urban areas, we're not really on a farm. We don't wake up and go feed the chickens or go milk the goats. But what I think is kids can do it in school, and that's really fun, and they get to learn. But also, if we learn how to grow food, even if it's one plant, we are going to be healthier. We're going to have better salsa. We're going to have tastier food to eat if we just know how to do it. And again, saving that seed, having that seed, that's true wealth. Money's great, but if food's not being shipped in, what are you going to get with it? You can't eat it. And I'll take a sack of frijoles, if there was no food around, that would be worth millions. Because you can feed a bunch of people. And it's also about honoring the earth, that there's food all around us. Talk about open source. You can go harvest quelites, mulberries, tons of wild food, choya, nopales, the tunas, the cactus fruit. So really just creating a consciousness, and that we're using our intelligence as a society to work in harmony with that and have an abundance of local food instead of being completely dependent on food grown across the world or across our country. So it's plugging along. Maybe if I look at it, it'll go faster. Maybe we should just see if we could just work it, and it should just kind of make up the difference. So again, this is La Placita Gardens, day of service. Let's see what our sound's like here. This is a traditional blessing of the tools and of the days. Some elders come down from, I think, Round Valley.
Gravity's bringing this water, just like it brings the water from the mountains to the acequias. We use that same gravity and that force to bring it to our fields. Does that make sense?
So you guys recognize this, right? Yeah, it's tasty stuff. You guys like it? Keep on growing it. Who knows what this is down here? It's a little marker of the plant. It's a green. This is lettuce over here. Who knows what this is? It's not quite close. It's kale. Kale comes from Russia, where it gets real cold. This is a real tough plant in the winter. It tastes pretty good too. But there's bugs on it, so you don't want to eat it. How do you go to farmers markets? If you go, we'll be there. We'll always love to sell you stuff. I think you guys know what's blood. Yep, right up blood. You see the yellowish color?
is that you guys know you can. Yeah, and so what we do, and there's also bone mills, the white part, and the plants like it, and it helps them grow. And it's a good thing, right? Because we don't eat food, we don't eat blood, we don't eat bone, but the plants eat it, and then we eat the plants, and it all works out perfectly, right? And you guys see how this one's smaller? It's made out of plastic, but you can make this in your backyard, your front yard, whatever. You can grow it year-round. All you need is some PVC and some plastic, so you can make it any size you want.
All right, what's up? What's good? We're here reporting live for What's Good. We're at the second annual Day of Service, celebrating the legacy of Cesar Chavez and his birthday with all these amazing youth. We had about 300 kids come out to the Sanchez farm at La Placita Gardens to have a day of farming, of learning about acequias, doing erosion control, planting a medicine wheel, all these fun farming activities, all celebrating the legacy of Cesar Chavez. So we're here reporting live with What's Good, and we're trying to keep it good, broadcasting good news about what's good in our community and start putting that in our media, putting that on our TVs, so it's not about crime, it's not about theft, it's not about what's bad, it's about what's good. So reporting live for What's Good, we'll talk to you soon.
Nice, well thank you very much, thanks for the time. And Si Se Puede, open source, Viva la lucha. Okay.
Thank you so much, Travis McKenzie. Thank you for sharing your voice with us and sharing your thoughts and feelings on seeds and the importance of seed saving to preserve our traditional seeds. And to basically follow up with this topic of community activism and what it means to be active in our communities and to keep our communities informed and connected, we utilize open source as a great resource for that. So, for an example, this is a wonderful media piece that is available on YouTube for anyone and everyone to view. Once again, it took place at La Placita Gardens in the South Valley here in Albuquerque. So, you know, it's a community farm. Come check it out and learn something. So, what I did for my open source, open culture project, to be quite honest, I signed up for this class having no clue what open source meant in that context, and I heard open source, open culture, and I thought, wow, that sounds like an amazing class. Open source, it sounds like, you know, anyone and everyone is welcome. Open culture, anyone and everyone is welcome. So I signed up for this class learning that it was all about internet access and free word and all the information that's readily available at our fingertips through the internet and these technologies. Yet, do we know the potential that they have when we use them to better our communities or to get important things out to our communities that need to be talked about and to inform of the importance of specifically our water is what I choose to talk to you guys about today and to show you our water is a very serious situation that we all must be very conscious and aware of. And I'm going to show you a video, kind of a collaboration of YouTube videos, kind of like a DJ mix-up game off of YouTube, and it's just going to kind of walk you through the reality of the world that we're living in today in regards to water, food, seeds, and our local communities, and the importance of all of these things today. So,
people at times got dislodged from the water. We were very, very particular. We have regulated how much water comes into the ecosystem, how you should live to ensure you don't waste it and pollute it. Extremely strict cultural norms that you don't go and shit next to a pond, you don't violate the banks of the river. The deep idea that water is planetary creation, a gift of creation. It is not private property. And there is pollution regulation, erosion of community, and community getting fragmented into power structures. More power in the hands of the higher class, more power in the hands of men. And a consumer culture burden of all this. Not thinking anymore of water as ecology, water as nature, but thinking of water as a sink or waste, which is what industrialism brings, which is what consumer culture brings. That has been the biggest change, which is why, while industry is polluting, while big corporations are mining our water, ordinary citizens are also participating in forgetting what the conservation culture is about. And our movements in India are a movement to remember what this society is about, what our water conservation culture is about, and how we build a future on this. The water crisis in this country has nothing to do with who gets how much money. There are parts of Rajasthan where the water culture of conservation is still alive, and there's good government. There are parts of Kerala where there's huge rainfall, and the mining by Coca-Cola in Kachimada has created a water famine. Cherrapunji, the highest rainfall spot in the world, has no water because when that rain comes, it runs off, leaving no water in the lean season because we get all our rain in the monsoon climate. The water scarcity in India is totally directly linked to models of development that do not take water into account and do not take the limits of water being